Hi guys, welcome back to Chess the Matthew. So on this video, we will tackle on how to beat the bishop opening. So the set opening start with the move e4, e5, and after the move bishop to f4, we shall reach now the bishop opening in this position. So here the black play the move f5, the anti-bishop opening, because here after the white capture the knight on g8, there is just a simple rook takes g8. And we shall see in this position now that this pawn was actually undefended, and the white here can grab that pawn and have an extra pawn advantage on this position. But the black here will simply play the move d5, and after the move queen to h5 with a check to the black's king. But the black here can simply play the move g6 to cover the check, and after, for example, f takes g6 and rook takes g6, the queen takes a5 here doesn't work because there is a rook to e6 that skewer the queen and the king on this position. So here the white play the move knight to e2, but there is just a simple knight to c6 defending the e5 pawn. And after, for example, a castle on the king side, the black here start now an attack with the move bishop to g4 with a fork to the knight and queen on the g4 square. So here the white tries to counter with queen takes h7, hoping that this rook was actually undefended. But after the move rook h6 attacking the queen, and the queen retreats to d3, here comes now again another e4 that attacks the queen on this position, and the queen here cannot leave his knight undefended because it was actually attacked by the bishop on g4. And after the move queen to e3, queen h4 threatening to mate in 1, so the white here defend with h3 to avoid that checkmate in 1, but there's just a simple bishop takes e2. And after queen takes e2, here comes down the knight to d4 with an attack to the queen, and intending to play the move knight to f3 on the next move. Because, for example, after queen to d1, here comes now the knight f3 with a check. And after, for example, the white here goes to h1, but there is a sacrifice of queen takes h3 check, because after g takes h3 and rook takes h3 check, and after king to g2, there is a mate in 8 after rook h2 check. Because after the white here play the move king to g5, but there's just simple bishop d6 check, and after king to g4, again there's just a simple rook g2 check, and the white here will not survive after 5 moves after king h3, king f7 threatening to play rook here on h8. Although the white here can capture that rook, but there's just a simple rook g8 check, and after king h3, rook h8 check, and after king g2, here comes now the checkmate on h2 square after rook h2 checkmate. And in just 23 moves, the black here wins against the bishop opening. So going back on the initial position after e4, e5, bishop c4, the bishop opening, but the black here has an antidote here against this opening with f5 on the move 2, allowing the white to capture the knight on the g8, because after rook takes g8, and again sacrificing this pawn with a takes f5 and d5, although the white here is a pawn up, but the black here has a strong center on this position. And after attempting queen h5 check with an idea to fork the h7 pawn and the king, but after, for example, g6 covering the check, and here the white play the move f takes g6. Let's say, for example, if the white here capture the pawn on h7, but there's just a simple rook g7, and after queen h3, again there is bishop takes f5 with a fork, and again, for example, the move queen to g3, but there's just a simple bishop takes c2, and still the black here has an edge with appear a bishop and a stronghold on the center with 2 pawns. So going back after f takes g6, the black here capture the pawn with the rook, and after knight to e2, sending the e file with a threat to capture the pawn on e5, but the black here defend with the knight, and after, for example, castling, and here comes now the bishop to g4, forking the knight and the queen on this position from the black's perspective. And after queen takes, but there's just a simple rook h6 attacking the queen, and after queen to d3, let's say for example, if the white here play the move queen to g8, but there's just a simple queen to h4 with a threatening mate in 1, and after, for example, the move h3, stopping that idea, but the white here loses a knight on the e2. So going back after this queen to d3 of white, but there's just a simple e4 move, attacking the queen again, and after queen to e3, just defending his knight, but there's just a simple queen to f4, and after the move h3, stopping those mate in 1, but there's just a simple bishop takes a2, and after queen takes a2, here comes down the knight to d4 with a threat to play soon on knight f3 to help the attack with the queen and rook on the king side of white. And after, for example, the white here play the move queen to e3, but still there is just knight f3 check. And let's say, for example, if the white captured that knight, but there's a mate in 6 after rook g6 check, king h2, bishop b6 check, f4, bishop takes, queen takes f4 check, and after king h1, again there is queen to f3 threatening to mate in 1, and even though the white here tries to defend, but there's a mate in 1 on g2. So here after the white play the move queen to d1, but there's just a simple knight f3 again, and after king h1, escaping to the check of the knight, and again the black here aggressively sacrifices queen with queen takes h3 check, because after g takes h3 and rook takes h3 check, there is a mate in 8 on this position. Even though after king g2, rook h2 check, king g3, bishop d6 check, king g4, bishop g2 check, king h3, king f7, king takes g2, rook g8 check, king h3, rook h8 check, and after king g2, even though the white here played the move king to g4, but there's just a simple rook h4 check, and after king f5, rook f4 checkmate. So after on this position, the white here is hopeless, even though he play king to g2, because there's a mate in 1 after the 23 moves with rook h2 checkmate. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe.